there's a very real struggle between developers and hackers in games. It's actually been that way for pretty much forever. Most developers now even have an anti-cheat system that is actually from another company to do all the work for them because they're specialized in going after these hackers. Free-to-play games especially seem to be the most hit because it's so easy for a hacker to come back again even if they get banned. With no price tag, the only inconvenience is losing all of your stats, and coming back again with a new account isn't all too difficult. But even games with a price tag have problems with hackers and struggle to really control them. Just look at H1Z1. I do find it hard to get into the psychology and the mind of somebody that is hacking and what they actually want and what their sort of reward is for doing it. I guess that people that do it want to win, and that's the only thing that they want to do, or they want to troll others, or they want to make other people's games not fun. But it's still quite hard for me to understand that or grasp that concept of somebody that would play with hacks. But that's the only reason I play with games is because I want to get better, and I want to play people that are better than me and eventually overcome them with my own skill. But without that, hackers literally just go in games and stand there and fire off with their aimbots, and there isn't really anything they're doing about it, and they're winning with no self-reward, I guess. It's only for the reward of what others might perceive them as they might be able to get onto leaderboards and things like that. Either way, today I really wanted to talk about cheating and Paladins and what they're doing about it and what they could do about it, I suppose. And I do want to mention that in Paladins, out of the 250 hours I've played of the game, I've encountered a total of 3 hackers. So it's not the biggest problem in the world, but a lot of people are definitely complaining about it, and it is something I have come across myself. And the footage you see here does show us winning against one of the hackers and coming very close to winning against another hacker that could actually shoot through both of these hackers could actually shoot through the floor across the map and hit us. And the reason we could do that is because most hackers don't have any skill at the game, and this game actually requires you to position quite a lot of the time, and the users using these games don't know how to do that, so they're pretty bad. And in one game we won, the Ruckus is the only tank and he needed to be on the point, but every time we came to the point we were able to kill him because he was actually in danger then. So you can beat them. And just some tips on how to defeat the hackers at the moment. If you go into the map, and once they start firing at you, you can go behind walls and half of them will block the fire from those aimbotters. So you can use those walls to get closer to the point and use them as cover as you might normally do in game. And then like we did here, we used our ultimates to take out just the hacker. And then when you've done that, if you keep taking out the hacker, and the thing is that hacker is probably inflating their elo or the ranking that that team has. So that hacker is probably the highest player on that team. So if that player is taken out of the game, you're basically taking the best player out of their team. So that's the way to deal with it at the moment. And also to mention, Hi-Rez are already rolling out a second layer of anti-cheat detection, which is called Easy Anti-Cheat, but it's not on all accounts yet, so we haven't even seen the full effect of that yet, so hopefully that will do a lot at picking up a lot of the aimbotters. But I do think that, like every other game in the world, it'll basically be a struggle between keeping up with all the new hacks and getting rid of them, and then once the hack developers come out again, there'll be a hack for a little while, and then the cheats, basically both cheat detections will catch up to it, and it'll be like a cat and mouse chase for pretty much ever. So there are other things to talk about and other ways to tackle it that I think could be explored, but there are quite a lot of pros and cons, and I'll probably talk about them all just for interest, even if I don't think that they could actually be implemented because of the many cons that they have. So anyway, here's some of the things that could be done more to deal with hackers in Paladins. And the first one is a pretty easy one, and definitely one I think could be implemented, and that's increasing the requirements to play in rank mode. So to begin with, I was pretty much against the idea of increasing the rank requirements, and that's because it does take quite a long time to get all of the characters, how many characters they need to level 4. But actually looking at the positives, what it would mean is that cheaters will have to play more to get to ranked without any reward in the casual mode, so that there's more of this sort of time element as to what a cheater has to go through to actually get on the rankings or to make themselves look good, I guess. And as Paladins is a free-to-play game, it doesn't have that paywall to stand in the way, so time and commitment could be one of the things that could put off cheaters or deter cheaters. Another positive that's actually not related to cheating is that players will likely have more champions leveled up and basically will have more experience with them, and it's quite important in rank to have characters to use in every situation. So if all of the support champions that you play have all been picked, but your team needs a support champion, then you'll be a bit stuck if you don't have them leveled up. I do actually think that in general the ranked mode is actually a pretty much a bit low on the requirements at the moment, and even as a free player you should be able to unlock a few more of the champions before you get to rank mode, and it might be something that could really stop these hackers from getting in and just be good in general. Obviously the cons for this are that players are locked out of rank mode for longer, and I guess it is annoying that you can't play the game properly, in inverted commas, as the rank mode is probably the pure form of a game, or any game really, because that's when you are getting your ranking, and I guess playing the game actually means something. Also, hackers might still try to join ranked, and that time and commitment might not put them off, but at the same time it'll mean that they're in casual mode longer, and it might spoil casual mode a bit more than competitive mode. Although I think that's a weak con, as it wouldn't really matter whether they're playing casual or ranked, but that's just one thing to think about. And generally here I do think that the positives outweigh the negatives, and free-to-play games can't deter hackers with the price tag, so yeah, their weapon is time investment, and it would make sure players are ready for ranked in general. To have more active support staff, so it's a pretty obvious one, but having more people dealing with the tickets will mean more constant bans, and anything closer to live system of bans the better. And obviously having some GMs in different areas, so one for Europe, one for C, and one for America would be good. I don't know how much they have or who they have sort of doing it at the moment. I'm guessing they're using QAs or people on the support team. I'm not really sure how many people they've got at the moment, but obviously the more people the better. But the cons for this is that each GM or person dealing with the tickets has a higher cost, and obviously these are real people, they have real wages, so it's actually a feature that's quite lacking in a lot of games now, and GMs seem to be something of the past, something that we would have seen in like WoW or any MMORPG, and it's not really a big thing anymore, but probably something that they're not likely to do to commit more people to it. 3, Hi-Rez could have selected community members have temporary ban privileges, and what I mean by this is that there are some dedicated members of the community that have investments into the game, like people in esports teams, because they don't want to be seen as somebody that is disrupting the game and don't want to be banned from esports tournaments, and perhaps they could be the ones that could give temporary bans out if they come against hackers. And something interesting to mention is that the hackers in Paladins will go at the ranks really quickly, because the way the MMR system works is that you get loads of MMR for not losing a game, so you can win 8 games consecutively, and then you will be quite high in the ranking. So what's happening at the moment is hackers are getting quickly and playing against good players, and this is where people are able to take them on, because actually they're matched against quite high level players, and sometimes they can deal with them and sometimes they can't, depending on how good the hacker is. But if community members could ban them, they could temporarily ban them until a real GM or community support member could take a look at those cases and say whether or not they were definitely hacking and get rid of them for good. And in that way it might help out some of the calls at the moment on Twitter. We're seeing quite a lot of the competitive players in competitive teams saying that they've been matched against hackers, and they're having to just tag in the GMs to try and get a ban on them. And the big downside of this is that trusting any community member with a ban is very open to abuse. And as much as the community is great, a company can't really trust someone with a ban hammer, basically because they can't fire them and they have no sort of way to reprimand them, and that's sort of the problem that they'd have in giving community members like temporary ban privileges. So, number 4, we have automated bans or report amounts. So at the moment it doesn't seem that there's sort of an automatic cutoff point to ban somebody, and I think a GM or community support member or whatever they have has to personally look at the tickets and say whether or not they're hacking to ban them. And usually they need video evidence, or they need the link to the support tickets for the game so they can rewatch the game. It would make sense that if, say, in the space of an hour, if a person gets more than 10 support tickets, then they get a few hours banned to give time to the GMs to have a look through the case. And 10 support tickets would kind of make sense in an hour, because that would be 2 whole enemy teams reporting that hacker. So they play 2 games, they get reported by the whole team twice, and then they're automatically cut off. That could be one way of going about it. It could really systematically stop hacking in its tracks. And the big downside of this one is that people could be trolled by loads of people filing bogus report tickets, but in my eyes, if there is enough of those report tickets going through, it's not likely to be bogus, but I guess if you're a good player and you're being matched up against teams and you're playing well against them, and especially in ranked mode where you're playing similar teams over and over again, especially when you get to the higher levels, if somebody doesn't like you on the enemy team, they could just keep reporting you, and if you're playing 4 games in say an hour or maybe more, then you might get that ban, and that could be very annoying. And number 5, we could have a low priority queue, and what I mean by this is if you've played Dota, it has something similar, but you could be more harsh with the automatic bans, where it doesn't actually ban the player from the game, but it drops them into a different game mode. They have to play this low priority queue, where only players that have been dropped into this queue play against each other, and basically if they're accused of hacking or if they've been harassing people, they go in here, and this low priority could have a set amount of matches they have to win, and without leaving or being reported by the enemy team to get out. And that could drop all of the people that are hacking into this crappy mode and really put them off from continuing to play. And if they do keep hacking, then they will be reported and we'll have to just keep playing these rubbish games, so it will be even more annoying. Although the one big downside of this one is if you get wrongly put into this sort of this hell of a matchmaking, then yeah, it might very quickly become that you quit the game forever. And number 6 is players watching reported players' games. So if once somebody's reported, that game is then put into a file repository or something, and selected community members that haven't been reported in a long time would get a notification that they're eligible to be a overseer or something like that. In CSGO they have an Overwatch feature, and basically community members will watch the match back, and if enough people say that that person was definitely hacking, 100% hacking, then that player would be hacked. So it's like an automated way of using real people to check the gameplay and see whether or not somebody's hacking. I don't think there's actually much of a downside in regards to it being a bad system, but the only problem with this is that it's got a big development time, and also people would actually have to commit to watching these games and actually wanting to do that, which people don't always have time to do. Number 7, they could also fix the champion rankings so that there's not so much of an MMR gain straight away, because at the moment it is so easy to get 7 consecutive wins and get a master ranking, so you get that first masters rank, and also you get onto that top 100 leaderboards for the champion. And that's quite a big thing, is a lot of hackers quickly get onto there, and it's almost a slap in the face when you see that hacker that you've been playing against, you've been going for that champion ranking for a long time, maybe you've been knocked out of the 50th place, you've lost loads of MNR, but then you see that hacker go above you. That's so annoying, and I think that at the moment that ranking just doesn't help the situation, especially with hackers. It's generally a bad system anyway. If they fix that, then it would be less of a slap in the face. It'd also be less rewarding to the hackers in general, as they wouldn't be so easily able to get these rankings and have that that big ego boost of being on that top 100, even if they don't at all deserve it. Anyway, those were just some ideas of how games combat hackers and what Hi-Rez may be able to implement as well. And obviously they are already implementing another layer of hacking, so I didn't really talk about that, and I've tried to give as many pros and cons as I could. Hackers and people profiting from the software that they make, as people do subscribe to these hacks, will probably always exist unless there's some sort of draconian law that bans the development of them, and that's in a very odd place as well, as it's all over the globe and it's not necessarily that illegal, and it's hard to say it's actually illegal when they're just developing files that are external to the game, so we may never see anything that's set in stone to completely combat them, but it's just a very real battle between the developers and the hackers. And let's just hope on this occasion that Paladins is on the winning side. Anyway, have I missed any methods or things that Paladins could use to try and combat hackers? Or what would your idea be to try and combat hackers? Or do you think I've hit the nail on the head, or is there one in particular that you would like to see come to the game? Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button. If you didn't like it, give it a dislike. Subscribe to watch more of my content, and thank you all very much for watching. Until next time, Joshino.